Hi, honey. How's everything going?
Hi, Dad. Everything's going well. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I wanted to talk to you about something important.
Sure, what is it?
You're getting to the age where you might start thinking about dating and relationships. Before you do, I want to talk to you about knowing what you want.
Okay, what do you mean?
It's important to have a clear idea of what you're looking for in a partner before you start dating. That way, you can make sure you're choosing the right person for you.
How do I do that?
Well, one way is to make a list of the qualities that are important to you in a partner. For example, honesty, loyalty, a good sense of humor, kindness, and so on.
That's a good idea. How do I know if someone has those qualities?
You can start by observing how they treat other people. Do they treat others with kindness and respect? Do they have a good sense of humor? Do they keep their promises and stay true to their word?
Those are good things to look for. What else should I keep in mind?
Well, it's important to remember that everyone has flaws, so it's okay to have a few deal breakers. For example, if someone doesn't treat you with respect or doesn't value honesty, those might be qualities that are important enough to you to end the relationship.
That makes sense. What else should I consider?
Communication is also important. You should be able to talk openly and honestly with your partner, and they should be able to do the same with you. If you're not comfortable communicating with someone, it might be a sign that they're not the right person for you.
I see. Is there anything else I should keep in mind?
Just remember that it's okay to take your time and not rush into anything. It's better to wait for the right person than to settle for someone who doesn't meet your standards.
Thanks, Dad. That's really helpful advice.
Of course, honey. I just want you to be happy and make good choices when it comes to relationships.
I appreciate it. Thanks for talking to me about this.
Anytime, sweetheart. I'm always here for you. Hi, sweetie. How was your day?
It was good, Dad. How about you?
I'm doing well, thanks. I wanted to talk to you about something that's been on my mind.
Sure, what is it?
As you get older, you might start thinking about dating and relationships. I want to remind you that while physical attraction is important, it's also important to look beyond appearances.
What do you mean, Dad?
Well, it's easy to get caught up in someone's looks and forget about other important qualities. It's important to remember that a person's character, values, and personality are what really matter in a relationship.
That makes sense. How do I know if someone has those qualities?
One way is to observe how they treat others. Do they treat people with respect and kindness, even if they don't look like them or have the same background? Do they value honesty and integrity, even when it's difficult?
Those are good things to look for. What else should I keep in mind?
Well, it's important to remember that looks can be deceiving. Someone might look perfect on the outside, but have a lot of negative qualities on the inside. On the other hand, someone might not be conventionally attractive, but have a heart of gold.
I see. What should I do if I'm not sure if I'm attracted to someone?
It's okay to take your time and get to know someone better before deciding if you're attracted to them or not. You might be surprised to find that someone who wasn't your type at first becomes more attractive to you once you get to know them better.
That's good advice, Dad. Thanks for reminding me to look beyond appearances.
Of course, sweetie. I just want you to find someone who treats you well and makes you happy.
I appreciate it, Dad. You always know how to make me feel better.
That's what dads are for. I love you, sweetie.
I love you too, Dad.
Hey, kiddo, how's it going?
Good, Dad. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Listen, I wanted to talk to you about something. You know how we've talked about dating and relationships before?
Yeah, I remember.
Well, I think it's important to remember that it's not a race. You don't need to rush into anything with anyone.
What do you mean, Dad?
I mean that you should take your time getting to know someone before jumping into a relationship. Don't let your emotions or hormones make the decisions for you.
But what if I really like someone?
That's great, but liking someone doesn't necessarily mean that you're ready for a relationship. It takes time to get to know someone and figure out if they're a good match for you.
How do I know when I'm ready for a relationship?
Well, that's something only you can decide. But I think it's important to ask yourself some questions first. Are you looking for something casual or serious? What kind of qualities are important to you in a partner? Do you have similar interests and goals?
Those are good things to think about.
Yes, and it's also important to remember that rushing into things can lead to heartache and disappointment. If you jump into a relationship too quickly, you might not really know the other person well enough to make a good decision.
I guess that makes sense.
And it's not just about getting hurt either. If you rush into a relationship, you might miss out on getting to know other people who could be a better fit for you. Plus, you want to make sure you're not sacrificing your own needs and values just to be with someone.
That's a good point, Dad.
So, take your time, kiddo. Get to know the other person and make sure you're both on the same page before you make any big decisions.
I will, Dad. Thanks for the advice.
Of course, kiddo. I just want you to be happy and make smart decisions.
I know, Dad. And I appreciate it.
Anytime, kiddo. Love you.
Love you too, Dad.
Hi, sweetie. Can I talk to you for a minute?
Sure, Dad. What's up?
Well, you know how we've talked about dating and relationships before?
Yeah, I remember.
I wanted to bring up something that I think is really important when it comes to finding a good partner.
What's that?
It's about observing their behavior. You should pay attention to how they treat other people, like their friends, family, and even strangers.
Why is that important?
Because the way someone treats other people says a lot about who they are as a person. If they're kind and respectful to others, it's a good sign that they'll treat you the same way. But if they're rude or dismissive towards others, it's a red flag.
I see. What are some things I should look for?
Well, for example, do they listen when someone else is speaking, or do they interrupt and talk over them? Do they show empathy and understanding, or are they quick to judge and criticize? Do they make an effort to be helpful and supportive, or do they only think about themselves?
Those are good things to keep in mind.
Yes, and it's not just about how they treat people they like or are close to. It's also important to observe how they treat strangers, or people they don't know well.
Why is that?
Because it's easy to be kind to people you like or know well. But how someone treats strangers can be a better indicator of their true character. Do they hold doors open for others, or do they let them slam shut? Do they say please and thank you, or do they act entitled and demanding?
I get it. So, if someone is kind and respectful to others, that's a good sign that they'll be a good partner?
It's not a guarantee, but it's certainly a good sign. You want to be with someone who treats you well, but also treats other people well too.
That makes sense. Thanks for the advice, Dad.
Of course, sweetie. I just want you to find someone who makes you happy and treats you with the respect and kindness you deserve.
I know, Dad. And I appreciate your guidance.
Anytime, sweetie. Love you.
Love you too, Dad.
Hi, sweetheart. How was your day?
It was good. Thanks for asking, Dad. How was your day?
It was good too. So, I wanted to talk to you about something important. You know how I always stress the importance of communication in our family, right?
Yes, I remember.
Well, it's just as important in any relationship. Good communication is key to a healthy and happy relationship.
I know, Dad. But sometimes it's hard to communicate, especially if I don't want to hurt someone's feelings.
I understand that, but it's important to remember that open and honest communication can actually prevent misunderstandings and hurt feelings in the long run. It's better to be honest and kind than to keep things bottled up and let resentment build.
That makes sense, Dad. But how do I start a conversation about something that's bothering me without sounding accusatory or mean?
Well, it's all about using I statements instead of you statements. For example, instead of saying you never listen to me, try saying I feel like I'm not being heard when we talk.
Okay, I think I understand.
And it's important to remember to listen as well. Communication isn't just about expressing your own thoughts and feelings, but also about really hearing and understanding what the other person is saying.
Right, active listening is important too.
Exactly. And if you're not sure how to communicate something or if you're feeling overwhelmed, it's okay to take a step back and give yourself some time to process your thoughts and emotions.
That's good advice, Dad. So, what should I do if my partner isn't as good at communicating as I am?
Well, it's important to remember that everyone communicates differently, and it might take some time for your partner to open up. Encourage them to express their thoughts and feelings, and try to create a safe and non-judgmental environment for them to do so.
That's a good point, Dad. I'll remember that.
And remember, communication is a two-way street. It's important to not just talk, but to also listen and be receptive to your partner's thoughts and feelings.
I'll definitely keep that in mind, Dad.
Great! I'm glad we could have this conversation, sweetheart. Remember, communication is key to any healthy and happy relationship.
I will, Dad. Thanks for talking to me about this.
Of course, anytime. Love you.
Love you too, Dad.